Welcome, everyone. The air in the Istanbul tea house hung thick with the scent of cardamom and unspoken words. I, a freelancer named Elias Thorne, nursed my strong black tea, trying not to look like I was observing the two men huddled in the corner. One, bulky and sweating even in the cool evening air, was known only as the broker. The other, lean and sharp-eyed, his face etched with a network of fine lines earned from a life lived on the edge, was Kareem. Tonight I was invisible, a fly on the wall, hoping to glean enough whispers to weave into a story that might finally buy me more than just stale bread and lukewarm tea. I was chasing ghosts, the ghosts of international arms trafficking, a subject shrouded in secrecy, whispered about in hushed tones, and incredibly difficult to penetrate. But I had a lead, a contact who'd promised to point me in the right direction, and that direction seemed to be pointing right at Kareem and the broker. The conversation was a low, guttural murmur in Arabic, which, thankfully, I understood well enough to piece together the gist. They were discussing a shipment, a big one, something Kareem referred to only as the Serpent scale. It was heading west, he said, concealed within a seemingly innocuous cargo of dried fruit. The broker grunted in response, clearly more concerned with the payment details than the specifics of the weaponry itself. For weeks, I'd been following breadcrumbs, chasing rumors that led me from the bustling souks of Marrakech to the back alleys of Naples. Each clue was tantalizing, hinting at a network so vast and complex it felt like trying to grasp smoke. Now, finally, I had something solid. The Serpent scale. My contact, a disillusioned former intelligence officer named Isabella, had warned me about the players involved. These weren't just petty criminals trading in handguns. This was a sophisticated operation, pulling strings on a global scale, capable of destabilizing entire regions for profit. Elias, she'd said, her voice laced with a grim urgency. This isn't a game. These people are powerful and ruthless. If they even suspect you're sniffing around, they won't hesitate to silence you. Her words hung heavy in the air, but the lure of the story, the chance to expose this darkness, was too strong to resist. Over the next few days, I tracked Kareem's movements. He was a phantom, flitting between safe houses and anonymous meetings, always one step ahead. I used everything I had learned over years of precarious freelancing, blending into crowds, tailing subtly, and exploiting the labyrinthine bureaucracy to access restricted information. I learned that the shipping manifest listed a consignment of dates originating from Syria, destined for a distributor in Marseille. Marseille, the perfect port for smuggling anything undetectable into Europe. I booked a flight to Marseille, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. The city was a melting pot, a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of criminality and legitimate commerce. It was also crawling with law enforcement, both overt and covert, which made my task all the more difficult. I located the warehouse where the shipment was due to arrive. It was a sprawling, anonymous building on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by a chain-link fence and patrolled by men who looked more like soldiers than dockworkers. I spent days observing the site, mapping out its vulnerabilities, and identifying the security procedures. Isabella had given me a contact within the French customs agency, a man named Antoine, who was sympathetic to my cause, or at least intrigued by the possibility of exposing a major arms smuggling operation. Antoine, however, was cautious. He couldn't risk his career, or worse, on unsubstantiated allegations. He needed proof. "You need to show me the goods, Elias," he said over a crackling phone line. "I need hard evidence. Then, and only then, can I act." Infiltrating the warehouse was a suicide mission. The security was too tight, the risks too high. I needed another angle. That's when I remembered the shipping manifest. Dates. The dates were being distributed to local markets. Maybe, just maybe, a few stray boxes wouldn't make it to the distributor. For 2 days, I scoured the markets of Marseille, moving from stall to stall, asking about Syrian dates. Finally, I found one. A small, unassuming shop owner with tired eyes and a weary smile. He had received a small shipment of dates a few days earlier, he said, and they were selling well. I bought a box, carefully examining the packaging. It looked identical to those listed on the manifest. Inside, amidst the sticky, sweet fruit, I found it. A single, intricately crafted ceramic tile, painted with a stylized serpent coiled around a rifle. It was a marker, a signifier, the serpent's scale. I raced to Antoine's office, the tile clutched tightly in my hand. He examined it under a magnifying glass, his face growing grim. "This confirms it," he said. "This is the symbol used by the Al-Nusra Front. They're supplying arms to someone here in Europe. And these dates are the vehicle." Antoine mobilized his team. They raided the distributor's warehouse, finding crates of dates riddled with hidden compartments containing assault rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, and sophisticated explosives. The Serpent's scale had been exposed. The arrests were swift and decisive. Karim, the broker, and several other key figures in the operation were taken into custody. The story made international headlines. I, Elias Thorne, was hailed as a hero, a fearless journalist who had single-handedly dismantled a major arms smuggling ring. But the truth, as it often does, was far more complex. While the arrests had undoubtedly dealt a blow to the operation, it hadn't destroyed it. The network was too deeply entrenched, the tentacles of its influence reaching into the highest levels of government and finance. Isabella contacted me a few days later, her voice even more somber than before. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest, Elias," she said. "You've exposed a small piece of the puzzle, but the real players are still out there, and they're not happy." I knew she was right. The feeling of being hunted, of being watched, never truly left me. I moved from city to city, changing my name, altering my appearance, always looking over my shoulder. One evening, years later, I found myself in a dimly lit bar in Prague, nursing a beer and watching the news on a small television screen. A breaking report announced the assassination of a prominent European politician, a vocal critic of arms trafficking. The report mentioned a connection to a shadowy organization known for using the symbol of the serpent scale. A cold dread washed over me. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that the game was far from over. The serpent's scale had been bruised, but it hadn't been broken. It was still slithering through the shadows, poisoning the world with its deadly trade. I finished my beer, the taste suddenly bitter on my tongue. I would keep running, keep hiding, but I knew, deep down, that the ghosts of the serpent scale would continue to haunt me forever. The truth, once unburied, never truly stays silent. And sometimes, the price of exposing the darkness is a lifetime spent in its shadow.